My question that I'm going to answer today is why prepare middle actors for zero carbon? And what, first of all, is a middle actor? Why think about change from what I'm calling a middle out perspective, also called the MOP? And how does thinking from the middle out help us to think about education and training for zero carbon? So those are the issues that I'm going to be looking at here. So the first thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was agents and directions of change. Allison, in her introduction, mentioned change from the bottom up and top down. And generally, when we think about making change, top-down change means that policymakers are making regulations, using incentives and information to drive the market and actors in the market to make changes. Bottom-up change is generally citizens or consumers. I think in Allison's idea, this may also be, individual teachers. But more generally, it's grassroots demonstrations, organizing, and perhaps purchase power. Turns out that if you do a literature search, you find that top-down change is mentioned about 900,000 times. Bottom-up change is mentioned about 700,000 times. And there is a very small sliver of change from the middle out, which is about 3,000 mentions, but it equates to about 0%. And so if you put all these different types of changes together, what you get is kind of a sandwich that looks like a traditional peanut butter and jelly, where you have 2 thick slices of bread and then a little tiny bit of filling in the middle. My colleague Yael and I started thinking about this about 10 years ago, where we think that the middle is more than filler, that actually the sandwich has a lot more going on than just a thin layer in the middle. We've written some things about that, which I'm not going to go into here. But we use this idea to really conceptualize change from the middle out. And we've looked at a number of different organizations in this. In this particular paper that I wrote with Kate and Alice, we're looking at vocational trades, engineers, designers, project managers, and clerks of work. So that actually bridges the vocational training that Gavin was mostly talking about and the professional training that I think Malini is going to talk about. And we think that there are 3 directions of influence that any middle actor can have. That's upstream to government, downstream to clients, and sideways to other middle actors. In the paper, we go through also 3 modes of influence that these actors have: enabling, aggregating, and mediating. I'm not going to go into that. It's too much detail for 5 minutes here. Our findings are that construction middle actors do different things, but share common training routes, knowledge support systems, and professional networks. That sideways collaboration between academia, vocational training, and industry could enable all 3 directions of change, not just the middle out, but also top-down and bottom-up initiatives. This is a complementary way of thinking about how change happens to deliver zero carbon buildings. We also found that the priority group of middle actors who need to build capacity, knowledge, and influence are vocational professionals. And so that, again, ties back to Gavin's paper. And we found that at present, these actors have very little upstream influence. That means that they don't really have a connection to government in the same way that, say, designers do. And we also think that the training routes are multiple, so formal training, on the job, or e-learning. For upskilling, we think on the job is probably the easiest. But what's important about this is that upskilling is not needed just for technology, but also for communicating upstream and downstream. So in summary, who are middle actors? Many different groups: practitioners, trainers, educators, and students. Why is it important? Well, we think a middle out perspective encourages new pathways for growth between professions and across disciplines. And really encourages us to think about zero carbon as a more coordinated interdisciplinary system of practice. The construction industry is broken in many ways, but thinking about it as more integrated may be helpful. And education and training to enhance the agency and capacity of the system will result in a whole, we hope, that is greater than the sum of its parts. How we need to do this, middle actors will need to extend beyond where they currently are just a little bit, upstream to policy, downstream to clients, and sideways to each other. So with that, I thank you. If you want to know more about the middle out, there is a video that's available. Thank you so much.